Hi folks, Toad here with Visordown.com and welcome to the review of the new 2020 Honda Rebel. So, this is a bike that has been around for a few years. It was launched originally when they launched the CB1100, the newly revised CB1100 back in, I think, 2017. So it's been around for a little while in its previous guise. So Honda took the 2020 and the Euro 5 update to give it a little bit of a refresh and just make it a little bit more on trend and down with the kids, which is obviously who this bike has got in its crosshairs. Quick high level overview. This thing is really good value for money, I think. It's $5,799. You can pick up PCP deals for virtually nothing, and it's going to cost you next to nothing to insure. The tax is going to be about 40 or 50 quid a year, and the insurance is also going to be very, very cheap. So one thing it is quite cost effective motorcycling, which in this day and age when everyone's trying to stay away from public transport and all that bollocks is a really, really good idea. What's changed for 2020? Well, it's gained this little headlight cowl, which is quite cool. It's also got a really, really wicked little LED headlight, which doesn't just look good, it actually looks good as well on the road at night. It works really well, which is ever so cool. Obviously there's the Euro 5 update, so there's a new exhaust system which makes the bike more compliant, and it also sounds a bit peppier than the old model as well. They've also revised the seat for 2020, so it's now a quilted design. It's a little bit more comfortable than it previously was, but other than that, really not a lot else has changed. Oh, gear indicator, very importantly. So talking about the engine of this bike, you can all guess where it comes from. It is the CB500F CBR500 parallel twin that is also in the CB500X. It is a supremely versatile little unit, and it is extremely peppy in bikes like the CBR500R, and it is also, you know, a bit more grunty in the CB500X. And again, here in this bike, it has got a completely different character, and it is a little bit more, not totally, but it is a little bit more leaning towards the side. It makes it feel like a cruiser. The exhaust note as well is quite deep, and it does kind of just pop along and makes lots of nice little rumbles through the exhaust when you're on the overrun, when you're slowing down. So really, really well suited to the bike. I don't exactly know what Honda have done internally to the engine. I have a feeling it will just be airbox and mapping and the exhaust system that makes the differences, but it's really, really noticeable. Because it's that CB500 engine, it's also extremely fuel efficient. If I turn the bike on and I scroll through the little menus on the dash, I can get to, there we go. So I have averaged over the time that I've had the bike, which is probably about 175, 200 miles worth of riding that I've done on it. I've averaged 70 miles to the gallon, and that isn't just riding slowly around town and stuff. That was belting back from Coventry over to Corby to bring it back to Honda today, which was spent on the A14 probably around sort of 75, 85 miles an hour. So yeah, extremely fuel efficient. And it would have to be, because as you can see, it has got the stylistically focused peanut tank. It is a claimed 11.2 litres. I mean, you've still got quite good range in there because it's so frugal and it's so fuel efficient. So from the engine, we move to the suspension and the chassis. As you can see, this thing is a cruiser through and through, a cruiser for young, cool, hip people, just like myself. The suspension set on it's telescopic forks at the front and they're non-adjustable, and you've got rear twin shocks at the rear, and you look at it and you think, God, I bet that's wallowy and spongy and horrible, and you're totally wrong. It's not at all. Actually, the suspension's tuned really nicely, and it'd have to be, because there's nothing you can do about it if you didn't like it, but it's firm enough without being harsh. Actually rides potholes really well, but I don't think that's so much to the suspension. I think it's the tyres, which I'll come on to in a moment. But yeah, it's just a middle of the road suspension setup. Hasn't got masses of travel at the front, but you never seem to bottom it out, so it's really nicely damped, and the rebound and everything is all works really, really well. The only thing that does happen when you start to push on and as you learn, because this is a bike basically for beginners, but as you get more confident with riding, you get to know the bike better, you'll start to want to go a little bit quicker. And that's where the tyres come in. They're these big balloon tyres and they look cool. I mean, they do look good. They give the bike this kind of, you know, beach buggy sort of vibe that it's got going on there. But you do get a little bit of kind of porpoising on the tyres where the front and the back end don't quite know what each other are doing and the bike will sort of shimmy about a little bit. It's not a problem. It never feels like it's going to crash or it's going to chuck you off. It's just a lively little thing to ride. And it is down to those tyres. I don't know if there are other tyres that you can get that might give you a bit more of a confidence inspiring ride. I'm not 100% sure, but for 90% of the people that are going to buy it and the people that are going to ride it and the type of riding that they're going to do, you're never going to have any issues with it because it's just dead compliant, does everything you want. It's really, really easy to ride. And it's got a super low seat, 690 millimeters. I don't think it gets more accessible than that. Well, we're talking about the seat, actually, chat about the comfort, because just today I've spent an hour and a half, 2 hours on the bike, and it's been B roads and back roads and dual carriageways and motorways as well. And one of the best things about this thing is it is wickedly comfortable. The revised seat, I don't know how much they've revised it. I think it's probably just putting the quilting on and stuffing some extra padding in there. But it's really comfy and it's nicely contoured. The handlebars as well are a nice easy reach from the seat, so you don't feel overstretched. You're sitting in quite a nice neutral position. And the foot pegs as well are nicely set, so your knees aren't too bent. Sometimes mid-set pegs on a bike like this, you can find your knees are kind of up here by your elbows sort of thing. It's not on this thing. You're really nicely spaced out. You don't feel cramped at all. The one thing I will say, this clutch casing here protrudes quite a long way out the right hand side of the engine. So the pegs are actually, they feel to me like they're in about the same position on either side of the bike, but because the clutch cover and the clutch casing sort of protrudes quite a bit, you've only really got one position you can put your leg in, which if you are going to ride it for a long time might get a little bit tiresome. It's not really a massive issue on a bike like this though, I don't think. Weighing under 200 kg, so got 190 kilogram claimed weight, so riding it around town as well is dead easy. It's super light, it's nice and it's quick, and you can dart through traffic. The clutch on all of the CB500 engine bikes is super light, one finger light effectively, and it's got this beautiful little Swiss watch of a gearbox as well. So, you know, as beginner motorcycles go, all of that sort of stuff that you need, the ease of use, the light clutch, the decent gearbox and so on and so forth, it's all there from the word go, and it a bit like every other CB500 really. So just spoken about some of the hardware on the bike, want to come on to the brakes, because it's quite an aged sort of setup of Nissin calipers front and rear. They are better than the bike shows them to be. I know they're better because on the CBR 500R the brakes are really good, and it's exactly the same setup, and it comes back to the tyres. You get to the limit of where the tyres will start to lose grip, and all of a sudden they will lose grip, and then the ABS has cut in, and then it's kind of ever increasing circles because the ABS has cut in, and then it's let go, and then it's cut in. It works really well, the ABS. It's not overly intrusive, but on a bike like this you want it to be able to scoop somebody up if they get into trouble, and it does do that both front and rear. So what do we like about the Honda Rebel for 2020? I really enjoy the way that it does not take itself seriously at all. I mean, it's a fun little bike it's designed to get people onto two wheels, and I think it fits the brief perfectly. I also like the fact that it doesn't really look like any of the other 47 brake horsepower 500cc, I want to call it a commuter bike, because that's effectively what it is. A lot of the hardware that's gone into it is stuff that we've seen on the CB500 and stuff like that for quite a long time now. So it is kind of a commuter bike that just doesn't look like a commuter bike, and I quite like that because I think there is definitely a niche in it. And the final couple of things that I really enjoy about this bike, the comfort and the fuel economy that you can get from that lovely little Honda engine down there, are all very good. What don't we like? There's no rev counter, which, I don't know, it'd be quite nice when you're moving up through the ranks of motorcycling. It'd be quite nice to sort of learn about where power comes in, and I don't know if you can flick through the menus. I haven't found a rev counter in the little multifunction dash that it's got there, but might be handy. And the other one is that the right foot comfort is slightly compromised by the clutch, but there's really not a lot that Honda can do about that. If you are looking for some post-COVID-19 transport, that means you don't have to get on a bus, you don't have to get on a tube or a train, or even drive or share a car or do any of that stuff, but you don't want to look like you've just ridden off the CBT test centre on one of the riding school's motorcycles, well, welcome to Honda Rebel ownership, because this is probably one of the coolest looking 500cc sort of A2 friendly or new rider friendly motorcycles out there. And if you don't like sports bikes and the CB500F is a little bit too transformerish for you, here we are. Come and take it for a test ride. Like I said, these are 5799. They are in dealerships now. They come in a raft of new colours for this year, so do get down and check them out, and I'm sure you won't be disappointed.